What is going on, guys? My name is AK back again with another YouTube video. Now in today's video I'll be telling you how to win control every time. So if you're like me and you've been playing League Play quite a bit recently, you'll notice that, well, control seems to be disproportionately favoured in League Play. I seem to be getting about 5 control matches for every hard point that I'm getting, which, yeah, I don't mind control as a game mode, so it's not too bad for me, but I can understand that people that maybe haven't played competitive COD since the start of the year and haven't had a lot of game time in control might feel a bit lost, a bit confused, not really sure what to do. So I thought, what better thing to do than make a video on all of my top tips for making control a walk in the park and boosting you up to that master division or top of your ladder, whatever you want to do, really nice and quick. So with that said and done, drop a like if you find this helpful, and let's get straight into it. So first of all, we're heading on to TacMaps, which is a little piece of software that I get asked questions about all the time. So if you want to know what this is, it's essentially just like a free draw thing of the maps. You can move characters around, you can explain setups. If you've been around my channel for a while, you actually see I made a whole load of these videos on all of the maps on this TacMap software. But I always get asked questions about it. So if you want to download it, you can get it on the Windows Store. Just type in TacMaps and you should be able to find it. With that said and done, let me work through all of the maps explaining which points you want to attack first on offense. So on Checkmate, you've got the A, which is towards sort of the P4, the A-bomb side on hardpoint S&D. So this is where you actually want to attack first. This is the easier point to capture. So off the start, we always send a couple of people, sort of when I'm playing my team. But you can sort of communicate this with your League Play team if you've all got mics. And I know, lucky if you do. But as best as you can, maybe ping it. The pings are actually really useful to use on actually all League Play. They're actually quite good for conveying information when people don't have their mics plugged in. But we usually send 2 people towards A. Maybe one sort of will sit here and just watch this side push up from here. But you send 2 people to A, and then the other 2 into the top plane. Sorry, that should be in red. But yeah, you send the other 2 into the top plane. That's generally our sort of setup on the start of Checkmate, because you want to capture the A point first, and the B point is very hard to capture. So if you can, you want to make sure you capture in that second. Now onto Garrison, you're going to want to capture the B point first here. This is sort of P1, the first hard point. If you've played a lot of hard point on Garrison, I'm sure if you're watching League Play videos, I'm sure you probably have. But this is where you're going to want to capture first. Quite common sense. It's a lot easier to capture just because it's sort of closer to where you spawn, and then A is again a bit harder to capture. Requires a bit more teamwork and coordination. A sort of a push around the back is always quite helpful for A, but that does sort of require that you have the map pressure that comes with having B locked down. So again, off the start, we like to send quite a few people towards B, maybe 2 people there, 1 down sort of the lower mid, and then me, the main AR, usually sets up on the top tank just to sort of provide the covering fire over the rest of the map as these 2 sort of push up to get into the point. And this player again sort of pushes down their lower mid, watches if anyone's pushed into vents. That's quite a common place for people to push off the start. And anyway, just around this P5 square area, that player 2 there can deal with. So that's generally our start to Garrison, making sure that you can lock down B first, and then once you've done that, sort of coordinate a push, maybe have 1 person push through green, and then 3 people push around the back, or maybe all push around the back, try and pinch out the spawns, get a spawn trap going, something like that, and then lock down A second. Last but not least, we move on to Raid. Now, Raid is one that there isn't a set point that you want to capture first. You can capture either A or B first. Generally, I tend to prefer to capture A. I find capturing A is just a little bit easier off the start, but a good way to actually do that is by sending people towards B first. So you sort of send people towards B, that then, because people expect you generally to push A first, that is the more common side. So most people will send sort of a split between some people mid, some people down towards A. So they see you're at B, and they start capturing that. And so the first thing they do is then rotate back around their spawn and sort of try and pinch you, maybe through the money room or the L wall or even the back basketball. And so what that does then is that if you manage to get the kills, you capture B. If you don't manage to get the kills, that then puts your spawns right here, right by the back of A point, literally just off the top of the ramp there. So if you push B at the start, communicate with their team, just ping that. Or if you're actually in a competitive match, just say we're going to go to B. Get your team to go to B, maybe send 1 mid, and then 3 people down the bottom water actually to get to B. Start capturing that. If you can get a couple of ticks, which I'm sure if you're flooding it with 3 people, you probably can. That's always quite useful. But if you do die, you actually then spawn right close to A, and again you can all hop on there and probably get a couple of ticks on that, just in the time it takes them to then wrap back to A once they'd wrapped to B. So that's usually a good starting tactic off the start of Raid. If you're really good with your gunfights, or you know you're much better than the team you're playing against, push A straight off the bat, you'll win your gunfights and get a nice easy capture there. So the next thing I want to talk about is defense. Now, I'm sure if you've played a lot of Control, you'll notice that defense is actually a lot easier to win than offense, especially on Garrison and Checkmate, and even a little bit more so on Raid. Now, the way the game works is you get alternating offense, defense until the 5th round. Now, the 5th round is determined, or sorry, who gets defense on the 5th round is determined by the team that has the least total deaths of all the previous rounds. So what does this mean? This basically means you want to focus on not dying throughout the rest of the rounds. Get as many kills as possible. On your defense rounds, try and set up spawn traps to try and bring down their lives as much as possible. And on offense, you just want to not get spawn trapped and most importantly, not give away lives that you don't need to. So playing with your team, making sure you're getting trades and sort of communicating with your team to push. Don't push things alone. Don't give away free lives here and there, because it might seem like one small little death here and one small little death there, but that does add up. And if you want the big advantage going into the last round, having that defense, you want to make sure that you played the rest of the rounds as best as you can. So on the subject of being spawn trapped, if you are being spawn trapped, don't just run at them. Don't just run and try and get out of your spawn, especially on Garrison. I think there's a really easy spawn trap set up on Garrison towards the back of the van's sort of garage side. You want to try and get your ARs to set up and just try and get yourself out of the spawn trap before you start trying to get up that map pressure. If you just sprint at them over and over, you're just going to be giving away loads of lives and yeah, essentially ruining your chances of getting defense for the last round. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not impossible to win offense on the last round, but it definitely gives you a big advantage if you do have the defense, especially on Garrison and Checkmate, just because they're so defense heavy. Now, on the opposite side of things, if you are on defense, you're going to want to use those spawn traps. You're going to want to start pushing up the map. If you get 3 players, 4 players dead, you want to actually then start pushing up the map, getting into their spawn, and just holding the pre-aims and letting them essentially run into your bullets. It's great because you get loads of free kills. You're knocking down their lives. You'll probably be able to build up some streaks as well. I'll get onto streaks in a little bit. But really, it's just a very good strat to do on control. Get up, start spawn trapping them, because unlike hardpoint, the spawns don't flip. If you are in the back of their spawn, they will still spawn in the back of their spawn, so you can get quite a few easy kills doing that. Another point I want to make is if you're on offense and the game essentially looks lost, or the round looks lost, sorry, so there's no way that you'll be able to capture the points, don't try and run at them, don't try and flood them and like try and make something of it. Just admit that you're probably not going to win the round, and instead use that to sort of sit back and just pick up free kills. People will try and push you, they will try and sort of get over cocky if they think you're in the back spawn, so just use that to your advantage. Sit there, pick up some free kills and try and boost the life advantage in your favour, because generally the rule is defense is what gives you sort of, you use defense to actually push your kill advantage. You tend to get more kills on defense than offense. So if you're on a defense, if you're on an offense and you actually manage to get a small life advantage on that, that's going to be really helpful, because then you're already going to push that even further in your defense rounds. Hopefully that makes sense. So the last thing I want to talk about is streaks and using them effectively. So hopefully if you've played your defense rounds well, you've managed to set up a spawn trap, you should be able to actually rack up quite a few points and have some streaks to use. Now, the most common streaks that people use are the Hellstorm missile thingy and the artillery strike. They're the main ones that people use in competitive. In league play, you might get some napalm strikes and some attack helicopters or whatever else people are using, but I'm just going to keep it simple and stick to the competitive ones. So personally, I really tend to use my streaks on defense for breaking enemies that have set up in the control point. So say they manage to get a couple of people dead, they start flooding a point, especially if you're talking about raid, being that both points are outside. Maybe the A site on Garrison as well, that's outside. And Checkmate, if you can sort of wiggle your way through the roof, you can use your streaks as well. But really, streaks are best for breaking enemy setups on the hill. So they might get a few people dead, they get a setup, and with a couple of people on the hill, they're capturing it quite quick. But being able to throw a streak on there and sort of wipe them off and give you a couple of seconds just to reset and set back up is very valuable in sort of the last rounds of the control match. So essentially my point is make sure you don't waste them, don't use them on offense with 3 seconds to go just because you want a few extra kills, unless of course that's the final round and you're going to win it anyway. But you really want to make sure that you're using them effectively and not wasting them. Say if a couple of teammates have used their streaks in one round, don't throw your streaks on top of it unless you have to use them. Say it's the final round and you have to win, but don't blow all your streaks in one round and then end up losing it, because then going into the final round, the other team are going to have all their streaks and you essentially have nothing to work with. So communicate with your teammates, make sure that you don't double streak things as well. That's something I've seen happen quite a lot in league play. It just comes from a lack of communication, and well, being that everybody doesn't have a mic, that's not always the easiest thing to sort of communicate. But make sure you're using your streaks effectively, and that should be very helpful. So that's about my tips for control. Hopefully you guys have found this video helpful. If you did, be sure to drop a like, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.